My name is Daniel, and I lost more than money. I lost time, dignity, and the version of myself that believed love could be separated from risk. When people hear my story, they usually ask the wrong question first. They ask how much I lost. They should ask how long I believed. Because this didn't happen in a week or a month. It took almost 3 years. I met her while traveling in Colombia, during a period when my life felt stable, successful, and under control. I had a business in logistics, a paid-off apartment in Florida, investments, and the quiet confidence that comes from thinking you've already made your biggest mistakes. Her name was Sophia. She was calm, educated, warm without being desperate. She didn't chase me. She didn't flatter me excessively. She listened. That's what disarmed me. When I left Colombia, we stayed in touch. Messages turned into calls. Calls turned into plans. I told myself I wasn't rushing. I told myself distance creates clarity. What it actually created was a vacuum where imagination replaced reality. Every time I doubted, she waited. Every time I pulled back, she softened. That patience was the first trap. Because real predators don't rush. They let you convince yourself. Sophia had a story that made sense. She spoke about family responsibility, about struggling to support relatives, about wanting stability more than luxury. She never asked for help directly. She spoke about problems and let silence do the rest. When I offered support, she hesitated. That hesitation made my offer feel earned. I sent money for small things at first. Medical bills. Tuition. Repairs. Each amount was reasonable. Each explanation was detailed. Receipts were sent. Photos were shared. I visited Colombia again. Everything matched. The apartment existed. The relatives existed. The life looked real. That's the part people don't understand. This wasn't a fantasy. It was a staged reality. We talked about starting a business together. She said Colombia was full of opportunity but needed foreign partners. I liked the idea of building something instead of just consuming affection. She said trust was the foundation. I believed her because nothing had broken yet. What I didn't know was that trust wasn't the foundation. It was the product. And she was manufacturing it carefully, piece by piece, while I was already planning a future that would never include me the way I imagined. The first serious decision felt logical, almost boring. Sophia suggested registering a small import company in Colombia, something simple, something scalable. She explained the bureaucracy in detail, the licenses, the advantages of having a local representative. She said my role would be financial and strategic, hers operational. I liked that structure. It made me feel cautious, not reckless. I transferred a larger sum for registration, legal fees, and initial inventory. She sent documents. Stamped. Signed. Translated. Everything looked clean. Too clean. I visited again and met her accountant, her lawyer, people who spoke confidently and shook my hand like this was already real. I didn't realize they were actors in a longer play. Control shifted quietly. Sophia insisted it was easier if accounts stayed in her name, for tax reasons. She said Colombia worked differently. I accepted that explanation because I wanted to respect her expertise. That respect slowly turned into dependence. I began checking with her before making decisions about money that was technically mine. She framed it as teamwork. We decide together, she said. But together started to mean after she had already decided. I noticed delays when I asked for reports. Gentle excuses. Internet issues. Bank holidays. None of it alarming on its own. Together, it formed a fog. I told myself businesses take time. That impatience ruins good things. In reality, patience was buying her distance. The second hook wasn't financial. It was emotional. Sophia told me she was afraid. Not of me, but of the future. She said people in her country didn't forgive women who chose foreigners. She said I was her safety. Her anchor. That word changed everything. I stopped questioning because questioning felt like abandonment. She began speaking about sacrifices. About what she had given up for us. About how lonely she felt when I wasn't there. When I suggested she visit the US, she hesitated. Visa issues. Family obligations. Timing. Always timing. Instead, she asked if I could invest more so she could secure independence before moving. That sentence should have stopped me. Instead, it activated something dangerous in me. The desire to prove reliability. I liquidated part of an investment account. I told myself it was temporary. Strategic. Sophia cried when I told her. Gratitude. Relief. Love. All perfectly calibrated. That was the moment I crossed from partner to resource. I didn't feel it then. I felt chosen. Needed. Essential. That feeling would cost me everything. Once the larger money moved, the tone of our conversations shifted again. Not colder. More managed. Sophia became busy in a way that felt intentional. Calls were shorter. Replies came later. When I asked questions about the business, she reassured me without answering them fully. Everything is moving, she said. You worry too much. She began discouraging my visits, saying inspections would slow things down, that people would get nervous if I appeared unexpectedly. That suggestion isolated me from reality while making me feel considerate for staying away. Friends back home asked why I hadn't met her family properly, why everything was always, almost ready. I defended her automatically. I heard myself repeating her explanations word for word. That's when I realized how carefully my language had been shaped. Sophia introduced urgency without panic. A shipment stuck. A partner threatening to pull out. A sudden fee that had to be paid immediately to avoid losses. Each crisis arrived just believable enough. I sent money faster now, not because I trusted her more, but because stopping felt dangerous. If I paused, everything we had built might collapse. That was the lie. The truth was that nothing had ever been built for me to protect. My role was no longer to grow something, but to keep it alive artificially, one transfer at a time. I stopped sleeping well. I woke up checking messages. Silence became anxiety. Contact became relief. That emotional cycle replaced rational thought completely. The second major intrigue came when Sophia suggested I transfer ownership of my Florida apartment as collateral. Not to her, she clarified quickly, but to a holding entity connected to the business. Just temporary, she said. Just to show commitment. That word again. Commitment. I hesitated for the first time in months. Sophia noticed immediately. Her voice changed. She didn't argue. She withdrew. Told me she felt stupid for trusting me. That she had defended me to others and now felt exposed. The guilt was immediate and overwhelming. I contacted a lawyer who knew nothing about Colombia but knew how to process documents efficiently. I rationalized that efficiency meant safety. The transfer went through. On paper, I still had control. In reality, I had removed my last anchor. Days later, Sophia stopped answering completely. Not gradually. Completely. Calls went to voicemail. Messages were unread. I waited, convinced there had been an emergency. Then a week passed. Then 2. I contacted the accountant. The number was disconnected. The lawyer's office no longer existed at the address she gave me. Panic replaced hope. I flew to Colombia without telling anyone. That decision came too late to save anything, but it showed me the truth I had avoided. The apartment Sophia lived in was empty. Neighbors said she had moved months earlier. The life I had been supporting had already ended. I had just kept paying for the illusion. Colombia felt louder than before, as if the city itself was trying to drown out my thoughts. I spent days walking between addresses, offices, cafes she had mentioned in passing. Every door led to the same answer. No record. No memory. No trace. The company registration existed, but it was a shell. Names matched, signatures matched, but nothing connected back to me in a way that mattered. I realized then how carefully my presence had been erased. I was never meant to arrive unannounced. I sat in a hotel room scrolling through years of messages, looking for the moment where truth slipped. It never did. Sophia never contradicted herself. She never rushed. She never lied in ways that could be proven. She let me fill in gaps with hope. When I contacted local authorities, they were polite and exhausted. This wasn't new. This wasn't dramatic. This was procedural. I flew home with a folder full of papers that proved nothing and a mind that finally accepted what my body had known for months. I hadn't been unlucky. I had been managed. The unexpected turn didn't come from Sophia. It came from a message sent to the wrong person. An email forwarded by mistake from a logistics contact I barely remembered. It mentioned a different name. A different country. The same structure. Sophia was not her real name. Colombia wasn't her first ground. I learned there had been others before me, in Spain, in Canada. Always the same arc relationship. Business. Distance. Escalation. Disappearance. What shocked me wasn't the scale. It was the patience. Years spent cultivating credibility, not speed. I realized something else then. The reason she vanished so cleanly was because she never needed to fight. There was nothing to defend. She had exited long before I noticed the door was closing. That understanding didn't bring comfort. It brought stillness. The story was finished, whether I accepted it or not. Closure wasn't coming from confrontation. It would come from inventory. From counting exactly what had been taken so I could stop imagining worse losses than the real ones. I lost 3 years of time. Not just calendar time, but mental space, attention, energy. I lost $640,000 in direct transfers, investments, and liquidated assets. I lost a paid-off apartment used as collateral and later seized. I lost credibility with partners who believed I had disappeared voluntarily. I lost sleep, focus, and the ability to trust my own judgment for a long time. I lost the version of myself that believed intelligence alone was protection. What I didn't lose mattered more. I didn't lose my health. I didn't lose my family. I didn't lose the ability to rebuild. Those facts took time to feel real. At first, they sounded like consolation prizes. Later, they felt like foundations. I wrote everything down. Every decision point. Every ignored hesitation. Not to punish myself, but to understand the architecture of the trap. It wasn't built on lies. It was built on my need to be consistent, generous, and calm. Those traits weren't weaknesses. But unguarded, they became entry points. This story isn't about Colombia. It isn't about Sophia. It's about how deception evolves when it's given time. If you listen to this and feel uneasy, that unease is the lesson. Real partnerships tolerate pauses. They survive questions. They don't collapse when you ask to slow down. Love doesn't require constant proof through sacrifice. Business doesn't demand secrecy to function. If urgency replaces clarity, stop. If guilt replaces logic, stop. I tell this story so that the next man who hears silence where there should be answers doesn't fill it with hope. Walk away while you still can. Not because you're afraid, but because awareness is not cynicism. It's survival.